known as rape.
So you're saying David would have sex with a 13-year-old?
David Wood, apologist, well-known apologist, he said he had sex with a 13-year-old, raped a 13-year-old.
Yeah, that's...
Now, this happened when he was 18. This isn't a recent thing. But that doesn't really make it better. Now, full disclosure...
Isn't this the same guy that also said that he, like, violently assaulted his family members with a hammer?
Yeah, so this actually happened while he was out on bond, awaiting trial for the assaulting his father with a hammer.
So he assaults his father with a hammer, he goes on trial, and then he's just like, man, you know what sounds really good? Middle schooler.
Yeah, basically.
What the fuck is wrong with Christian apologists? Didn't watch says he turned away from that?
Bad time to join this stream.
Oh no, I understand he turned away from that. Like that's his whole like apologia track record.
Yeah.
Is that
it is worth mentioning that he is he has been diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, and so that's not that doesn't make it better. But like part of that is they don't they literally do where he says I did not care. They don't. They don't have empathy. That's an oversimplification. And I will start by saying that because his whole thing is that I didn't have any morals until Christianity, and now even though I have antisocial personality disorder, I can be a moral person because of my Christianity. And if that's the case, then yes, I want this guy to stay Christian. I do not want to convince him that atheism is true. If that is going to result in him then doing things this and not caring about it.
Just have a moral framework. Though, to be fair, there was a conversation I was having with Shivam over on his channel, Casual Magic, about one of the things that happens when people lose their foundation. The opposite of what happened with him, where there are people who once they lose their foundation, they learned how to deconstruct, but they never learn how to reconstruct. And suddenly, they can just become even worse assholes. Yeah.
So Rhino Rapscallion and Duct Tape Jake are talking about people defending that are oh, no, it's just an underage girl. It's not they were old, it's 17 and a half. That's almost legal and stuff like that. So this article is not without that. Apparently some of the stuff that David Wood said about this is to try and soften it was that oh, well, she was a post-pubescent 13-year-old who had wide hips and big breasts.
No, see, what you're supposed to do in that situation is go, this is a thing I did when my moral compass... I fucking love Meteor Golem! Thank you for the subscription, Krista Blante. But the correct way to go about this, to not get a bunch of random backlash, and not random backlash, but well-aimed backlash, is to point out, you did these things when your moral compass was not very well set, as evidenced by the story that you told everybody, and you are ashamed of those actions, and you've learned to be a better person. That's how you do that. You don't suddenly start going, well, actually, she was a hot 13-year-old. You don't go down that fucking rabbit hole, because suddenly the follow-up to that is, why are you justifying those actions? If you agree it was wrong...
Because one of his big things is arguing with Muslims, and one of the big points he makes against them is that, oh, well, Muhammad consummated his marriage with Aisha when she was 9. So he's well, my pedophilia was a post-pubescent girl, and your guy's pedophilia was pre-pubescent, so therefore I'm not as bad as...
the thing to do to say, hey, I did something wrong, and the difference between me and Muhammad is I learned my lesson, he did not. That's how you go about that. There are ways to handle this within his framework. I know this.
David does not, apparently. Probably the funniest response I saw to this was somebody so part of his story, his whole testimony story is that while he was in prison, his cellmate was a Christian, and his cellmate was a person who committed a bunch of crimes, got away with them, but then later converted to Christianity and was convinced by his pastor to turn himself in for the crimes that he had gotten away with and never would have been caught for. And that's the guy who convinced David to become a Christian, and now David's a good person or whatever. And so someone replied to his confession with okay, so how about you turn yourself in for this then, since that was rape? And his response, oh, well, they wouldn't even know where to look for these girls anymore. Nobody knows where they are or anything. Like, so, it'd just be such a big hassle and everything.
Again,
like,
I feel like there's a way to handle that. Like, there's a way to
turn yourself in.
I mean, that's one way, but like, I'm saying within what he would do. Because I'm trying to operate from within the brain of David Wood, which I know is a scary place to be, since it's a brain that brains people with hammers. But within his framework,
he also called me ugly.
I mean, Nick Fuentes called me ugly. It just happens in our area.
What? Terrible people don't like us?
Weird. But like, there's a way for him to handle that without looking like a current pedophile. The way you handle that is very simply going, what would it accomplish? What is your goal? Is your goal to get me to go to prison so I will reform? Because I feel like my entire backstory is that I've already done that. Like, that's how you handle that. Yeah,
but then my response to that is like, no, you go to prison because you might be the next guy that convinces a prisoner to reform.
And see, that's a good counter argument. I'm just trying to think of like
God
how...
will use you in that prison. That is part of God's plan. So go turn yourself in. So the thing that is like blatantly obvious to me in this whole thing, like, so because he has antisocial personality disorder, I don't want to denigrate everybody who has that, because like it's actually a lot more common than people think. And most people with antisocial personality disorder...
Token White Dude says buckshot's another way to resolve this.
I agreed. But most people with ASPD, they go through life fine. Like, their outcomes are generally not as good as people without it, because they just don't, like, there's some issues that they have that make it hard to navigate society. But for the most part, they're okay. But in his case,
Seffi, calm down.
One of the reasons they are okay is because, like, they might not have the empathy or whatever to, like, I will do the right thing because I feel like I should. It's I will do the right thing because it is socially expedient. It will get me what I want. And so I feel like his conversion to Christianity was 100% the penal system will go easier on me if I reform myself as a Christian. And then there's a career waiting for me outside of the clinker as a Christian apologist with a horrible, horrible story about how bad a person I was, and Jesus will save even a bad person like me. So, like, that's looking at it cynically. But that's how people with ASPD look at things.
But it's also just how people in that situation will operate. So, like, I cannot say the name of the friend of mine that is going through this, but I think I've mentioned it on stream before. There is a friend of mine who has a family member who sexually assaulted his own daughter. And immediately after being found out, suddenly converted to Christianity, and suddenly had a group of people that were basically going, oh, well, he's getting better and he's going to be a better person. Yeah. Immediately, like, I'm sorry, but your support network does not need to exist within the nanosecond that you said, oh shit, I got caught, it's time to act like I am the good guy now.
Yeah, so part of what I was getting at is that, like what I said was that if being a Christian is actually making him behave better, I hope he stays a Christian. But my fear is that being a Christian makes it easier for him to exploit his position of power to get what he wants and potentially still do stuff like this.
Yeah, I am willing to say
that's an all too common story among people that don't have ASPD.
Yeah, I'm willing to say that people should have the opportunity to be redeemed, but there are certain things that I am okay with being stripped away from a person forever because of what they did when they had access to power. And one of those things is stripping access to power and audience away from them. Like, in the world in the future, if there's a world where, say, like, Nick Fuentes becomes a better person, in that world, I would prefer that he never have a platform ever again. Like, that be a thing that is taken away from him, and he find other avenues to be a better person.
Yeah, so that's David Wood. This story was right on Twitter, so not going to say go read it for yourself, but like it's a difficult read. Like he gives so many details that they were completely unnecessary, and it's just not pleasant to read. I'm not getting into the details, but regarding Nick Fuentes, Olivia Williams for 279 says, glass houses, he's not a looker either.
I will also say for my chat, 15th Watcher, I understand the position that you're coming from, which is one of saying like, hey, this person can be redeemed, they can be better. Nobody is denying that, but do understand that from the perspective of somebody else, especially the perspective of a parent, their perspective can easily and validly be,
so
I don't give a shit.
Yeah, and also step one for redemption for this guy would be go turn yourself in for the crime that you just admitted to.
Yeah, there's going to be people for whom this is a pain issue, and doing the devil's advocate thing only produces the outcome of creating an enemy or creating conflict. If your goal is to change a person's mind, then you will not do it by finding a pain point and further antagonizing it.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like I share the opinion that everybody has the potential to be redeemed. However, I also have the opinion that no one owes anyone else forgiveness. So like if David Wood actually does go through the process that would be required to redeem him and be like, okay, I guess he's a good person now, at no point does that mean that anyone he has victimized owes him forgiveness.
Yeah, nobody does owe that.
It's actually kind of mentally unhealthy to push that on people where it's like, okay, well, step one is forgiving the people who have wronged you. No, it's not. It can be, but it depends on what the wrong is. It depends on what that effect has been on your life.
Also,
now holding on to it and
starts
making your like holding on to it and making your entire life revolve around that pain that you feel is also not healthy. But there's a way to move past it, and it does moving past it does not always need to involve forgiveness. Now, I'm also not saying that forgiveness is never on the table. It's possible. It's individual. And pretending like forgiveness is always something that has to happen is not a healthy attitude.
Takatugi says, apparently Stream doesn't give notifications either. I need to figure out why my notifications are weird right now. But also, thank you very much. I do not remember what's on my treat stream, and I am uncertain of if I will be able to consume it because of diet reasons, but we will see when it gets here. I forget what was on there.
Send it to me, I will eat it.
Okay, cool. Let me just put it in my teleporter, send it up to Canada. Pizza, I could probably get away with doing a slice of it and then just saving the rest for tomorrow. That would probably be the right way to go about that.
Yeah, cold pizza's still good.
Oh yeah, cold pizza's fantastic. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, you know I'm not saying that last part, Valis of Sereth, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.